We're 300 meters. Like, it's going to happen now or never. Okay, 900, 1100, 1350, big sprint. Hey, guys, welcome back. Another Frenemies commentary. I'm beside my friend and enemy, Brian Larson of Team California. Brian, what's going on?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. We're looking at a little bit greener race than I've seen a while in California. It's starting to get brown and dry here. Where are we?
Things are already dying in California. This is in upstate New York. This a fan sent this footage in, and if you've forgotten, you guys can send your footage in to NorCalCyclingVideos at gmail.com for us to analyze, hopefully in a constructive way. We'll find out today. But this is in upstate New York. This is called the Hamburg Road Race, and picking up action here with 13 kilometers to go. Cat 4 field. This is kind of an interesting course.
Yeah, so it looks like, and we heard from the person who sent in this footage,
Justin. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for sending this. This looks great. Is that it was a very windy course out there, and that's something I like to consider myself, I guess, a specialist in, but more so because I've gotten my face kicked in by the wind so many times that I've learned how to use it in my favor. And there's a windy section of this course with a false flat uphill, and then there's a pretty hefty pitch towards the bottom of this loop, followed by, of course, a screaming tailwind downhill back towards the finish.
Yeah, and before you hit the there's kind of like two climbs. The first one is this long leg, and it's notably into a headwind. So as a non-climber, speaking for myself here, and maybe Brian, non-climber.
Yeah, I'm pretty fat these days.
We look forward to headwind climbs because that slows things down a little bit, and you don't have to fight gravity so hard when you're going up a hill when it's slower. So this long drag into a headwind is a climb, but it's only like 2 or 3%, and I don't think it's the real decider. Some people might drop there, but the real one is this crosswindy bottom section, and they've already been through this twice, by the way. This is the second and final lap. So the field has already been reduced from about 38 riders, I think he said, down to something like 12 or 15. A couple more got dropped on this long drag climb, and then we're making a right-hand turn here pretty soon to hit the real decider, which is only like 2 or 3 minutes, but I think it's like 7% with a crosswind. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think anytime you're going into a long block headwind is a time to get nervous as soon as you know a turn's coming up. And unfortunately, like you said, they've gone through this course twice now, so they should know that this is coming, right? They know that how steep it is, about how long it lasts, and they know when that turn is. And Justin here has done a great job positioning himself pretty close to the front right before here's that right turn that we just mentioned, which means now the wind should be coming pretty hard. I think I heard
left to right.
19 miles an hour or something around there, which is that's extreme wind. Not extreme, but that is enough to be noticed.
Yes, definitely.
Sub 10 miles an hour, it's not really as much of a factor, but especially considering they're only going 19 miles an hour. So if you have a 1-to-1 ratio on how fast you're going forward versus how fast the wind is blowing on you, you're going to really feel it.
Yeah. And I would use that headwind section as a time to move up, because you can really navigate, use very little energy, get in really good position, and like Brian said, that's exactly what Justin's done here, and he's even moved his way to the right of the field to get shelter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to position yourself on the right here. Notice how it's dropping down a little. We got minus 3% here, so he's
new graphics. I've stepped up my game.
I know. So we're rolling into this kind of kicker. And the one thing you have to be cautious of is when you're rolling into these uphills is that you know that the front of the race is going to slow down faster than you are. You're carrying a lot more momentum in the draft behind, and we're probably going to see it here when they're all coasting. Everyone's in an aero tuck here, 6-7% down, or I'm sorry, rolling into the 6-7% incline.
Now we're getting hit with it right here.
And it's very common for the front of the group to slow down, and all of a sudden, if you're not cautious, there's nowhere really to go to, right? And he had to come out and go into the wind a little bit and or get boxed in. So you have to predict that the riders in front are going to kind of blossom out in front of you and block the road.
Yeah, so now he's and I'm not even sure. I'm seeing all the foliage on the left here. By the way, I should have mentioned this at the very top. We haven't looked at this footage, guys. This is like the first time you're seeing it. It's the first time we're seeing it. So we're trying something a little bit new here, but I feel like the commentary and the analysis is a little bit more organic this way. But anyway, it looks like there's quite a bit of trees and foliage on the left here, which might actually be blocking some of that wind. So the wind might not be as big of a factor as we're making it seem like on this climb. It certainly is a factor on the open roads, though, and we'll get to more of that later. But you're seeing them climb right now. I mean, he's pushing 500-600 watts.
Yeah, and one thing we'll kind of point out here is for the last about 30 seconds, this rider in black has been digging, elbows out,
get around him.
And one thing you always have to be aware of, especially before a downhill or a tailwind stretch, is any gaps are incredibly hard to close at after those obstacles, after this climb. And so you can't even for a moment let somebody take you off the back. You have to always recognize if the rider in front of you is going to let that gap open, you have to shut that door immediately.
Absolutely. And you look for those traits, like Brian was just saying. There's certain qualities of a suffering rider. You know, their shoulders are slumped, their cadence is really low.
Like he stood up and did like 3 hard pedal strokes and then sat back down. That's like red flag, like times 10.
Yes.
Right.
So you got to look out for those indicators that, hey, it might be time to get around this guy and make sure that you're not going to get dropped.
Yeah, and I think, one thing too is like that probably caused a little bit of a panic, which is why he's kind of keeping that door open on the left, because he's probably worried about having to go around other riders. Note this rider in front now.
This is looking dangerous right here to me.
Yeah, see the rider stood up, he looked down at his legs, and he moved over left, and then he looked back.
This looks really dangerous. If the front wants to go hard right here, this could be
race over.
Yeah,
right.
This really could be. I just see this, and this just looks very dangerous to me. And you know what? If you're on the other side of this, if you're a good climber, attacking over the top of a climb is really important. Yeah, Brian's pointing out 638 watts. Oh, and you can see his head in the frame too. He is trying to get aero. He is suffering.
I call that the vegan cyclist sprint. And so, sorry, we love you, vegan cyclist. And so when you are still doing that effort, you're doing probably much harder of an effort than those 5-6 riders in front of you are doing. And keep in mind that everyone's gone over that climb, putting out a big effort already, and you just made that much harder than it needed to be. And you're going 27 miles an hour. The guy in front of you is coasting, and you're still doing 300, 400 watts trying to close that door. Yeah,
going down now. We're going down. It's only minus 1% here, but
30 miles an hour.
30 miles an hour, like Brian said, the guy in front of him was doing nothing, and our boy Justin here was doing a pretty hard effort, but he's made contact, so good for him. He recognized that that was a big danger. I know a lot of riders in the Cat 4 field, Cat 5 field would just say like, oh, it's okay. I'm gonna save my legs for the sprint. That'll come back. But it's like, you got to recognize those moments where it's like, nope, that's not coming back.
Right. Yeah. Recognizing the threat. And really the other point to that is not even recognizing the threat of others, but really recognizing what impact you can have on the riders behind, right? At this point, there was a solid group rolling into that hill, and he had an opportunity then to leave the other however many riders were in that group behind. So it's not just the fact that, okay, these 5 guys get right away, but you can shut the opportunities for the people behind if you recognize the danger and can put yourself in the position to win yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin did tell me when he sent me this footage that there was a selection made over this last climb. So I do know that the field now is 6 riders.
So I'd say he's probably the 6th rider in this group right now. He's tacked on to the back, and he's sitting pretty. And
he's got no teammates, so he's done the right thing here. He's got no teammates from when the whistle blew. So he's made the front group. He's got no obligation to do any work on the front, and now he's starting to play the game. This is kind of exciting now because we're only 8Ks left, and it looks like there's 2 teams that have 2 riders in this group. Am I seeing that right?
I think so. I'm colorblind, which also, by the way, for bike racers out there, is very challenging when you can't see and you're colorblind.
It's the guy in blue, Brian. Can't you see him?
Yeah, just like Mike's Bikes has blue bikes.
They're purple.
Yeah, no, I've figured that out now.
So there is a rider that got a distance up the road. I don't know if you can see him anymore, but there is a solo rider off the front now, and if I were Justin in this position, I'd be playing this game too, where I'm saying, Don't do any work on the front.
Yeah, you have to. It can go either way. It depends on how you feel, right? He just did a really big effort to close that door. Probably, honestly, harder than these guys did, because he set himself on the back foot by following that rider who was drifting off. And when you have to recognize that if you go across, it's a risk. And I'm
because if you don't make it, you're pretty
if you
screwed.
don't make it, or you drag teammates across,
the counterattacks come.
The counterattacks come fast and they come swift, and so I think you have to recognize how you feel. If you think you can do better than the other riders in that group, then you should go for it. But again, you always have to evaluate. It's not even that moment. Oftentimes people think, oh, I shouldn't go hard right now because a sprint's coming up in a few minutes. That's not the case. You have to think of what's the compounding effects of an hour-long race before this. Like how hard was the wind? How hard were the hills on these guys? Are these guys all climbers?
Yeah.
And this is a downhill. You never know, right?
Yeah. Minus 4%. They're going almost 40 miles an hour here. And Brian made a good point. I mean, if you're doing a hard effort here in the closing laps, even if you're a good sprinter, which Justin is, by the way, you'll see in a little bit, Justin's a good sprinter. It still might make sense to burn matches through here if you know that your competition is going to have to burn matches to chase you down, right?
Right. And I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind is like when you're going this fast, 41. You can just roll through and keep that speed fast if you're trying to chase somebody, right? It's not a lot of work, and it recognizes and it shows the other kind of breakaway companions here that you are on their side to bring back whoever is or is not off the front, if that's in your race.
Yeah. It might make sense for Justin here to roll through and take a pole to help them chase this single rider back, because they're all racing for second at this point.
Right.
He could put some of the burden on these other guys who have teammates to do most of the work. It looks like they're already rotating at the front. Yeah. So I would if I was in this position, I would kind of gauge, are they making inroads in closing that gap down to that single rider? If so, then sit on. Don't do any work.
Yeah.
If you think they're going to bring it back. If you think it's questionable or they're really struggling to bring it back despite their best efforts, then get to the front, do a short pull to show that, hey, I'm here to support you guys bringing this break back. It's still your responsibility, right, because you have numbers and I don't, but I'm going to help bring it back. And I probably wouldn't go so hard as to take away from my sprint with
I would. I'm the
with
type
1 or
that
2 Ks to go.
I'm the type that would.
So let me caveat that. If it's not coming back and it's either you do a big effort on the front or you're racing for second, then by all means, like, you're racing to win, right?
So the way I see it, you play to your strengths. If you know you're the best sprinter there, regardless of what's happened, you might as well go for it, because even if they come with you and they use some bullets and you use some bullets,
go for it, as in like try to bridge across,
because you're going to beat them then, regardless. Even if you're the best sprinter there, you know that you're going to beat them, right? It's like, imagine a sprinter being with a group of climbers. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you attack the downhill or attack a flat road, you're still going to beat them in the sprint, right? You have to recognize what your strengths are. If you're a time trialist and you've never won a sprint in your life, then no matter what, you have to go.
You have to go, yeah.
You absolutely. There's no question that you have to go. But again, it's always evaluating, like, what are these other people doing, right?
Yeah, what are they motivated by?
Right.
That's what I ask myself. And
this is actually, I think, when that rider's attacking right here.
Oh yeah, actually you're right. I think the guy I saw earlier was from another field.
Right. So they're still going like 37 miles an hour. It flattened out here, but the wind is I saw some of those flags they just came through were straight out, and it's a common misconception when you have a tailwind, it's an opportunity to go easier. You're going a lot faster with a lot less perceived rate of exertion, so you think like, oh, it's safe. And tailwinds are really actually an opportunity, in which this rider is showing right now, to go really screaming fast and to blow a gap
46,
open.
47.
If you, oh my gosh, that's right, and it's only 2% downhill.
Yeah.
This is crazy speeds.
It's a strong
49 miles an hour.
It's a strong tailwind.
Oh man, that is, yeah. Those last 4K are gonna go by real quick. But notice also, one thing to note is when you're going this fast and you decide to start pedaling, make sure you trump your aerodynamics over your power. He spiked up there when he realized he was losing the wheel just a little bit, and he went to 600 watts for a second, just because you're having to keep up with how fast your bike is moving at that point. But but he, like it looks like everyone's kind of panicked here. This rider has, I don't know, a couple seconds, not much.
Yeah, he's up there though. I just saw him around the corner.
Yeah, but meanwhile, our rider Justin here, he's doing 100 watts on the back. Right?
Yeah, he's playing the game. I mean, that guy's
There's
in
not
the
really
hood's out of the saddle going.
Not really a organized chase here. Like they're
getting
like
a little sloppy.
Yeah, they're all kind of sprint pulling is what I would call it. Like they're kind of sprinting around each other, and it doesn't really.
That's not efficient.
It's not efficient, and it doesn't really promote cohesive riding. Like you don't want to work with the rider in front of you if he just sprinted around you and kind of left you for dead, right? You want to like make it clear, like I'm here to help.
That dude's still up there, and now he's opening the gap a little bit more. I just peeked him around the pack here again.
Yeah, actually, it looks like the gap went open a little bit.
So Justin's still kind of playing the game here. I mean, this is risky because now look, there's two riders side by side on the front. Like now, it seems like they're not really chasing at all. He's been doing 0 watts for a little while, and this would be the moment where I'd start thinking like, well, maybe I do need to take a pull on the front to assist these guys because they're not able to do it themselves.
Right, and they're not talking, right? They're talking to each other. Look, they're having a conversation instead of saying like this is go time. So you need to recognize when those threats happen, and you need to, bend those arms, get low, and push on those pedals as hard as you can because, especially at these speeds, aerodynamics is everything.
It's pretty amazing what like one pull would do. I'm just thinking, this guy's wanting help a little bit. It looks like pretty amazing what like one nice smooth like hard pull will do at the front to bring motivation back to the group because like what'll happen is if you're Justin here, you get to the front, you do a hard pull. That might change somebody else's mind who is like, ooh, maybe I should get to the front and pull. And then that person will take a pull. And then like another person will take a pull. And it's like this domino effect. And likewise, the opposite can happen. If you start skipping pulls, other people say, well, if he's not working, I'm not working.
Right. And this was weird. I'm trying to understand
really
what's
working.
happening here. Like the two riders there in second, third position, I believe those are the two teammates, it looks like.
The guy on the front has a teammate. It's like that light red.
Yeah, okay. And one rider was kind of pulling hard in the front, and the second guy like let the gap open, and then everyone's kind of sprinting around each other. But that rider on the left really needs to recognize that he's just burning matches right now when he's riding side by side with the rider in front. And to go back to what you said, Jeffy, the pulling for a long, steady pull is far more conducive to, a good effort and bringing back time on your leader than to take a really sharp, fast, snappy pull. Like if you can pull for 30 seconds or you can pull for 10 seconds and go 2 miles an hour faster, you take the 30-second option.
Absolutely. This is something that I didn't learn, and I don't think a lot of people learn until you're like Cat 2, Cat 3 kind of area where
well, really in road races only because crits are so short.
A little bit harder, but you could do it in crits too, like in a breakaway and a crit. But
sure.
But like, I mean, the whole point of like efficient breakaway riding or chasing, like in this case, is no accelerations. So like if it's going 25 miles an hour and you want it to go up to 27, like right here, it needs to go a little bit faster because there's a guy off the front. You don't just get on the front and just like spike it up to 800 watts until you're at 27 and then start rolling. No, you very gradually bring it up to 27 or 28 and then you keep it there and it's very consistent. And the next person, you're not like jumping out of the draft. You're doing a very efficient effort. So he's doing 1100 out of that corner. Like
right, and there's only 4 riders in front of him, which means
I don't know why he was doing like 1200 watts out of that corner. That doesn't make any sense to me.
He's rage sprinting because he thinks that the race might be over.
Yeah, I think people are getting a little antsy here. So
I mean, everyone's going really hard here. So I'm not sure what's happening on the front here. It looks like it would be a crosswind. It's up to, again, over 30 miles an hour.
I think I know what's going on here. I'm going to speculate and say one of these guys is like, oh, I kind of screwed it up, and I'm not closing it down for my teammate, or, oh, I really want to catch this, but they've waited way too long, hoping somebody else would do it. And this is why late race breakaways
1.3K out. Yeah, I mean, it really, if you think about the speeds they've been going, I mean, this is really not much more than a 2-minute effort, a minute and a half. So you can't pull back more than a couple seconds per minute of riding, right? That's what you have to think about. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, it's a mile left or a kilometer left. You have to think, right? I think it's about 10 seconds a kilometer, I think, at most, usually. Right?
Yeah, I think that's the general rule. But it looks like now, can we see that guy up there? I don't know. I don't think we can see him anymore. So at a certain point, you start thinking, okay, the race is for second now. But I don't know if they're to that point yet. I can't really gauge the distance up to that rider up the road. Actually, I just got a peek. I don't see him. I think this race is for second now.
Yeah, I mean, that was bravo to that rider. Send us your footage. That was impressive.
Yeah, solo on a downhill, that's kind of...
Go solo 'cause YOLO.
There you go.
No, I think Justin, the only thing that I would have said to do a little bit differently here is to show yourself as a contributing member of this group.
He took 0 poles.
I mean, good on you for playing the game, but you also have to think about what's the psychology of this group, and are they going to want to bring you to the line if they know you're sitting on? Like, they may not even want to pull if they know you're sitting on.
Yeah, I mean, he's a demonstrated strong sprinter, and let's see if he plays it right too, because now we have a right to left wind, so I'd be wanting to sprint on the left-hand side of the road.
I would, but I think everyone would see how everyone kind of moved over to the left. He has to be a little careful. These roads in upstate New York are pretty narrow.
We're 300 meters. Like, it's going to happen now or never. Okay, 900, 1100, 1350, big sprint. I can see his chin there for a second, and he comes around the left. He let a little gap open up, and now he's coming by him with some speed. That's kind of a boss sprint.
Whoa, that was what I call like a double-edged sprint, where you sprint, sit down, and then sprint again. But yeah, this power, you would have won.
That's not Cat 4 power.
You would have won against the rider even if you went with him, I think, with that kind of power.
Yeah.
Even if you used a couple bullets beforehand.
Second's a great result, by the way. Justin, congrats on the result. I think you had the firepower to win. It didn't really work out in your favor. You probably could have taken a pole or two to help with the chase, but to be honest, I would say that the guys that both had teammates on the front, it was more on them.
Yeah, it was on them, and he
was playing the game though. He was rolling the dice, and it's a risk. Like, if you're like, I'm not going to work, it's your obligation to chase it back. Mm-hmm. This is what you risk. You risk losing the race.
Right, exactly. And as long as you recognize that, then I think you're going to improve through the ranks. I think just recognizing that in the future, you're going to have to probably do more work than you think is necessary for a sprinter at the end of a hard race, and sometimes just preemptively take the high road, do the work, risk it. And I think you'll win more than you lose if you start recognizing your power, and you have great power.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you like this new format, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. And let us know in the comments about future ideas for commentary or what you want to see in the next video. And Brian, nice having you on.
Yeah, thank you. It was really fun.
All right, guys. Catch you the next one.